Welcome. My name is Mohammad Abu Bakr Siddiq, Assistant Professor at Patuakhali Science and Technology University, Bangladesh. In this video, we will discuss about the historical development of language studies over the world. The development of language studies initiated by Sir L. Dudley Stump in Great Britain during the early 1930s. He was the professor of geography at the London School of Economics. He made a survey of the use of every parcel of land in Britain on a nationwide scale in a systematic and comprehensive manner. But Samuel van Valkenburg played a key role in forwarding the concept and plan of the World Land Use Survey. He proposed to form a commission on World Land Use Survey by the International Geographical Union to discuss the possibility of a worldwide land use survey on a scale of 1 is to 1 million, and each sheet to be accompanied by explanatory memories. Valkenburg proposed the idea of World Land Use Survey in April 1949 at the International Geographical Congress in Lisbon. The notable outcome of the International Geographical Congress was that the International Geographical Union formed the first commission on World Land Use Survey and appointed Sir Valkenburg as the chairman. The main objective of World Land Use Survey is to record the present use of land in all parts of the world on a uniform system of classification and notation with such amplification as may be necessarily locally. The Commission classified the World Land Use Survey into 9 categories, including subcategories, and it is the outcome of very careful opinions and views expressed by the members and the expert witnesses. Here you can see the 9-fold World Land Use classification and their color code. Now I would like to share the major land use studies over the world. Let me first talk about the land use survey in detail. Professor L. Dudley Stump is known as the pioneer of land use studies because of his great monumental work carried out in Great Britain and encouraged as well as provided guidelines to the geographers and other academicians all over the world. Stump established Land Utilization Survey in Britain as an independent research organization in 1930 with a view to survey and record the use of every parcel of land in Britain. This organization was successfully classified land uses of the Great Britain into 6 major categories, including forest and woodland, meadow and permanent pasture, arable or tilled land, heathland, moorland, commons and rough pasture, gardens, allotment, parks, orchards, and finally, land agriculturally unproductive, including buildings, yards, mines, etc. These major categories are further divided into some subcategories, and you can find out the details of the subcategories here. Large number of students from schools, colleges, and universities were involved in this work. Stump and his team completed the mapping of the whole country in a scale of 6 inches to a mile by ordnance survey. Maps were issued in quarter sheet, and each sheet represented an area of approximately 6 square miles, including the explanatory memories such as field boundaries, buildings, and other cultural details. Mapping of the entire Britain was completed before the occurrence of the Second World War. Publication of maps in a scale of 1 inch to a mile and explanatory reports started in 1933 and ended in 1948. During World War II, when economists and experts realized that Britain was going to fall into a food shortage, they started the Grow More Food campaign following Dudley Stump's land use classification. This resulted in a 70% increase in food production in Great Britain during the war. Based on such achievement, Stump's land use survey and land use classification was rewarded and established without any doubt. Now let's talk about the second land use survey in Great Britain. A second land use survey in Great Britain was carried out by Mary Coleman in the 1960s. He is one of the followers of Dudley Stump and followed Stump's approaches of using volunteer-oriented land use survey and involved 3,000 volunteers in his work. Maps were published and printed at a scale of 1 is to 25,000. More detailed land use types found in Coleman's land use survey than Stump's classification. Coleman's land use survey recorded 70 different types of land uses and grouped them into 13 major categories and used 13 different color codes, including gray color for settlement, both residential and commercial, red for industry, orange for transport, black steeple for derelict land, lime green for open spaces, light green for grass, brown color for arable, purple for market gardening, purple strips for orchard, dark green for woodland, yellow color for heath, moorland and rough blue for water and marsh, and white color for unvegetated land. Land use studies in Cyprus. Robert Rhys Lawson and Kenneth Royston Seeley from the Department of Geography, London School of Economics, remain memorable for their work in Cyprus. They introduced land utilization maps of Cyprus in 1956 at a scale of 1 is to 2.5 lakh. The maps were prepared based on the stereoscopic examination of about 10,000 air photographs taken in 1949 on the scale of 1 is to 13,000. They used proposed land use classification of the old world division of the World Land Use Survey. Major land use categories are here. However, the proposed classification were used with one modification because of the significance of irrigations. They subdivided class 4 cropland into two classes, 4A as irrigated cropland, color code is flat brown, and 4B is as unirrigated cropland, color code as steepled brown. Land use studies in Italy. Although Italy responded to the recommendation made by the Commission on World Land Use Survey to carry out the land utilization surveys, but they follow the concept of surveying and mapping of a committee formed headed by Vito Carmelo. Land use maps of Italy, including Sicily and Sardinia, consisted of 26 sheets, including 20 for Italian mainland, 3 for Sicily, and 3 for Sardinia. And these sheets were prepared under the direction of the committee at a scale of 1 is to 2 lakhs. The full series consists of land use maps and text were presented in the IGU Congress in New Delhi in 1956. Each series represents maps of separate regions of Italy and also contains description of geographic aspects, scales and statistical materials. Total 21 categories of land uses were presented in the maps, and you can find out these 21 categories from here. Land use studies in Poland. Kubijois prepared the first land use map of southeast Poland. He classified land use into 7 categories, including unproductive land, woodland, grassland, areas with a predominance of meadows over arable land, areas with a predominance of arable land over meadows and pasture jointly over arable land, areas with a predominance of arable land over meadows and pasture, and areas with arable land exceeding 50% of the total area. In the post Second World War, a project on land use mapping for agricultural reconstruction was initiated by Director K. D. Zionski of the research section of the Central Office for Physical Planning. The results of the land use were presented in topographic maps on a scale of 1 is to 1 lakh, and he classified land uses in 6 categories and used 7 symbols and 6 colors, including orange color with R symbol for arable and fallow land, brown color with O symbol for orchards and gardens, light green color with L and P for meadow and pasture respectively, dark green with L symbol for woodland, red with jet symbol for non-agricultural built areas, pink with ant symbol for unproductive land. Land use studies in USA. In the United States of America, different states have undertaken different land use classification to meet the current land use problems that exist in the state. The first land use study was directed by J.W. Powell at the end of the 19th century. The main aim of this survey was to identify the possible areas of irrigation, dry farming, and pasture. Francis J. Marshall started his monumental work on land uses in the mid 1940s. Firstly, he prepared state land use maps at a scale of 1:1 million using the aerial photographs of the late 1930s and the early 1940s. Later, he presented major land uses of the country excluding islands and Alaska in a map on a scale of 1:half million. The Agricultural Research Service under the US Department of Agriculture published Marshall's land use map in 1950. The map comprises 8 colors presenting 12 major land uses including cropland and pasture, cropland, woodland and grazing, irrigated land, forest, woodland grazed, forest and woodland mostly ungrazed, subhumid grassland and semi-arid grazing land, open woodland, desert shrubland grazed, desert mostly ungrazed, alpine meadow and mountain peaks, above timberline, swamps, marshes and metropolitan cities. Land use studies in China. Land use survey was directed by John Lu Xingbach in China during 1929 to 1933. The purpose of Bach survey was threefold. First, to train students in the methods of research in land utilization. Second, to make available knowledge of China's agriculture for its improvement as a basis for national agricultural policies. And third, to make available to people in other countries certain elementary information about land utilization, food and population in China. A full-fledged land utilization survey was started in the People's Republic in China in 1978, incorporating two objectives including creating a geo-environmental database and evaluating land resources along with its capability and crop suitability. Land use studies in Japan. The Geographical Survey Institute GSI is mainly responsible for preparing national land use maps through land utilization survey in Japan. The GSI compiled the first land use map of entire Japan and composed them into 3 large-sized sheets at a scale of 1:8 lakhs. This map was used after World War II with a view to increase food production, management of destroyed land in the country, and so on. Land use studies in India. The development of land use survey in India was initiated by Professor L. W. Stamp. In 1938, Professor Stamp attended the 25th Indian Science Congress organized at Kolkata. Professor Stamp motivated Indian geographers about the importance of land use study. After the Congress, Indian geographers conducted land use studies in the various parts of the country. In India, pioneer work on land use was made by Professor Shiva Prasad Chatterjee, the father of Indian geography. Chatterjee conducted land use studies in 2 districts of West Bengal, including Chobbish Pargana district in 1949 and Howrah district in 1952. He led land use study in Chobbish Pargana with a view to disclose the impacts of physical properties like soil and climate as well as the demographic pressure on land use. In Howrah, Chatterjee conducted a land utilization survey in 2 steps. Firstly, Chatterjee and his team prepared 1200 land utilization maps of 813 villages at a scale of 1:3960. In second step, they prepared 33 land utilization map at a scale of 1:15,840. Land use studies in Bangladesh. Land use studies in Bangladesh conducted by Bangladeshi geographers in various parts of the country received inspiration from the Commission on World Land Use Survey. Nafis Ahmed and Fazle Karim Ahmed made fast initiatives in conducting land utilization survey in Bangladesh. They conducted land use study in Madhina Nadir Par, a village situated on the bank of river Shitolakha in 1956. That's all for today. Thank you for watching this video. We'll discuss the biophysical determinants of land use change in the next video.